Hey guys, John V here from PhoneArena. Right now you're watching our video comparison between the Google Nexus 4 and the Samsung Galaxy S3, two premier Android smartphones out right now. With the Google Nexus 4, as we know, you're going to get that pure Android experience in the form of Android 4.2, so it's the latest and greatest in terms of the Android experience, versus the still relevant Samsung Galaxy S3, which remains to be a strong competitor in this day and age. So we're going to pit these two handsets against one another to find out exactly which one's going to reign supreme. To tell the truth, neither device has a stylish design that really wins us over in this day and age, but the Samsung Galaxy S3 just feels like the more natural device to hold in the hand just because of its rounded curves here towards the edges, which makes it easier to hold in the hand, whereas with the Google Nexus 4, it's definitely the sturdier feeling handset thanks to its choice of materials. You have the glass casing on the front and the back, which gives it a good sense of sturdiness. I would definitely like also the rear pattern design of the back cover, but at the same time, you could tell it does exhibit a lot more smudges and debris in comparison to the clean finish of the Samsung Galaxy S3. From the onset, the Samsung Galaxy S3 has the wow factor with its HD Super AMOLED display. In contrast, though, the Google Nexus 4 has more of a natural, more realistic color reproduction with its display. So the Galaxy S3 sports a 4.8-inch HD Super AMOLED display. Resolution is 1280 by 720 pixels and utilizes the pentile matrix arrangement, whereas with the Google Nexus 4, it's a WXGA 4.7-inch True HD IPS Plus panel in there. So its resolution is slightly higher, 1280 by 768, so it has the higher pixel density, but honestly, in terms of details and sharpness, there's not a big difference just because with their high resolutions and whatnot, we're still able to make out even fine text in the web browser from a zoomed out view, and honestly, they're more than legible, so there's not really a big difference between the details, although the Google Nexus 4 utilizes the more favorable RGB pixel arrangement here, but it's the color reproduction that's different. You have more realistic tones with the Google Nexus 4 versus the overly saturated tones with the Samsung Galaxy S3. As far as outdoor visibility, no doubt the Google Nexus 4 is a lot easier to view, whereas with the Galaxy S3, it kind of tends to wash out a little bit. Even though the Galaxy S3 utilizes a combination of capacitive Android buttons and a physical home one, we didn't have any issues as far as accidental presses. On the other hand, with the Google Nexus 4, as we know, seeing that it is a pure Android device, its Android buttons are incorporated into the interface. Above the screens of both handsets, we find their earpieces, their front-facing cameras, which can shoot videos in 720p. On the Galaxy S3, the notification light's placed on the top left corner here, while on the Google Nexus 4, it's positioned below the screen. Interestingly enough, the placement of both handsets' physical home buttons and volume controls are located in the same areas. They're both very distinctive to the touch, and they're also very springy too. Along the top trims of both handsets, we have their 3.5mm headset jacks and their noise cancellation microphones. Meanwhile, along the bottom edge of both handsets, we find their standard microphones, their micro USB ports for charging and data connectivity. Worth mentioning too, with the Galaxy S3, it features a removable battery and also storage expandability via micro SD card slot. It has 16GB of internal storage. On the Nexus 4, though, there's no access to the battery and there isn't no expandability with its internal storage. It's stuck with either 8GB or 16GB of memory. At heart, both handsets are Android devices, but as we all know, the Google Nexus 4 benefits from having a vanilla Android experience and the more up-to-date version as well. So it's sporting Android 4.2 Jelly Bean, a new flavor of Jelly Bean, whereas on the Galaxy S3, it's utilizing Samsung's TouchWiz Nature UX experience running on top of Android 4.1.1 Jelly Bean. So they're both Jelly Bean, but of course 4.2 being the newer one brings forth for some new features. For example, in the lock screen, you have now native support for certain widgets, so you could gain access to specific things directly from there. You also have the updated notifications panel, which have actionable items, and you have a cool photosphere mode when it comes to taking photos, so you get that cool 360-degree view. Now, we're not saying that it's so much better than the TouchWiz experience on the Galaxy S3, but as we all know, any Nexus device is going to get updates a lot faster than non-Nexus branded smartphones, but still, you can't quite count out the Galaxy S3 S3 and its TouchWiz user interface, just because it's still very useful. You have things like S-Voice, you have the pop-up play features, and a host of different shooting modes available to you that you can quickly share with friends. And you also have things like S-Beam. So a lot of similarities between their experiences. It's just a matter of whether or not you appreciate more of the specific enhancements found with Samsung's optimization, or just the pure Android experience. Even though the Google Nexus 4 is graced with the quad-core processor versus the dual-core CPU in the Samsung Galaxy S3, we don't notice its performance to be any better than its rival here. So the Google Nexus 4 is powered by a quad-core 1.5 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 Pro processor with 2 GB of RAM. On the other hand, the Galaxy S3 is powered by a dual-core 1.5 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 processor with 2 GB of RAM as well. So for basic tasks such as opening up applications, surfing the web, stuff like that, there's no noticeable improvement versus the other. They both exhibit the same level of performance, very smooth and of course pretty instantaneous with most tasks, and even to extent for stuff like gaming, they both exhibit the same level of performance. So there's no problem composing messages with their on-screen keyboards, just because, as you can tell, they're very spacious with their layouts, and on top of that we have some responsive performances between the two to keep up with our rate of input. They also employ swipe-like gestures, so you can actually use that as an alternative way of inputting text. But with the Samsung keyboard and the Galaxy S3, we appreciate that we have quick access to certain punctuations directly from the main layout. So with the US versions of the Samsung Galaxy S3, they benefit with LTE connectivity from 4 of the major carriers, whereas with the Google Nexus 4, it's available with HSPA Plus speeds out of the box. Even though technically you will get faster data speeds with LTE over HSPA Plus, it doesn't really matter, just because we still find complex pages to load up in a relatively fast manner on both devices. And on top of that, they both exhibit very fluid navigational controls, so pinch gestures and kinetic scroll are pretty much similar to one another. They render complex websites properly, and overall they do offer a satisfying experience. When it comes to music players, both handsets have access to the Google Play Music application, but with the Galaxy S3 you also have the TouchWiz Music Player as an alternative. So when it comes to presentation, nothing really stellar between the two. They're both quite conventional by today's standards. But as far as audio quality between the two, they're both pretty much on par to one another. You have some strong volume output with both devices. The Galaxy S3 just tends to sound a little bit sharp at the loudest volume setting, while the Google Nexus 4 just has a little bit of a muteness to its output, since seeing that it lacks a little bit of those good bass tones. Well, there's no arguing that both handsets offer a wonderful video watching experience thanks to their brilliant displays and their fast performance. The video we have here is encoded in MPEG-4, 1920 by 1080 resolution, and you can tell a lot of nice vibrant colors with the two, so they're more than optimum for the occasion. The difference here is just video codec support out of the box. The Google Nexus 4 has only MPEG-4 and H.264, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S3 has, in addition to those two, DivX and Xvid as well. The other thing is just the feature here, the pop-up play feature found on the Galaxy S3 and its TouchWiz interface. It just allows you to pop out the video and have it run in the background, so you could actually do some other multitasking elements with it. So we know that both handsets feature 8-megapixel autofocus cameras, and between the two we have to say that the quality goes to slight edge to the Galaxy S3, just because with outdoor shots and good lighting it tends to have sharper looking details versus the fainter ones on the Google Nexus 4. And on top of that, the Galaxy S3 has a slight advantage also in lower lighting conditions. It doesn't look as noisy compared to the results put out by the Google Nexus 4. So it's a close race with their still image quality, but when it comes to high definition 1080p video recording, the big advantage goes to the Galaxy S3, just because it is by far the sharper looking between the two. It has better details versus the very weak and dull details found with the Google Nexus 4. And on top of that, the Nexus 4 suffers from some heavier artifacting going on as you're panning. Surprisingly, the call quality in both handsets are nearly excellent. The only issues that we find is that with the earpiece on the Galaxy S3, it tends to emit a little bit of sharpness with its output, and on the Google Nexus 4, there's some crackling heard with the speakerphone, but aside from that, for the most part, voices on both ends of the line are very clear and distinctive. Comparing the battery life of both handsets, we have the T-Mobile HSPA Plus connection of the Google Nexus 4, and of course the EVDO 3G speeds of the Sprint Galaxy S3, and honestly, battery life is pretty much on the same level with both handsets, easily able to give us a day of normal usage, but of course, as we know with LTE connections, so LTE versions of the Galaxy S3, you're going to expect that battery life to be significantly less. There's very good reason why the Samsung Galaxy S3 remains to be a relevant device, even now as it sees more and more competition in the market. So between the two, it's a matter of just personal preference which one you're going to go with. They're both fantastic Android devices. With the Galaxy S3, it's the more well-rounded performer between the two, just because with things like taking photos and videos, it shows it's a better quality over its rival. On top of that, you benefit with a removable battery and even a micro SD card slot to increase its capacity, and of course, the US versions of the Galaxy S3 features LTE connectivity to really complement its overall feature set. On the other hand, though, if you want something that's going to get the updates, software updates a lot faster, then of course there's no arguing you want to take a look at the Google Nexus 4. It's a pure Android device. You have all the specific and new features found with Android 4.2 Jelly Bean that aren't available yet with the Samsung Galaxy S3. Throw in the fact that it has the slightly more premium finish thanks to its glass casing and whatnot, and its cool pattern design. It definitely makes a very appealing handset, but you can't go wrong with either devices. So if you'd like to learn more about both of them, guys, you could check out our website, PhoneArena.com. This is John V. Thanks for watching.